Welcome back around to theCUBE. I'm John Furrier, host here at our NYSE studio. Of course, we have our Palo Alto studio connecting Silicon Valley and Wall Street. Got some big launch news here with Impetus Technologies. We've got the CEO, Nachiket Deshpande, back on theCUBE. Big news for your company. We've talked previously about the macroeconomic conditions and the tech scene, how the business model transformation are happening. Let's get into the big reveal. Leap AI Solutions, family of products building on the platform shift. Let's get into the news. Explain.
Thanks, John, for having us here. Really excited about this new launch. Last time when we spoke, we talked about the sort of context gap that is sort of preventing the ROI realization for enterprises on their agentic AI journey. And we're really excited to launch the Leap AI family to essentially bridge that gap. We talked about the data gap being one key pillar, why the models do not have the enterprise knowledge that enterprises are, which is unique to their enterprises. So we have under Leap.ai, we have Leap Logic, which is our modernization solution that helps you liberate that data from legacy environments and make it accessible to your agentic AI systems. The second component of our Leap AI suite is the semantic layer with knowledge graph, ontology, that essentially converts both structured and unstructured data into the context that is needed for the agentic AI activation and helps you navigate that context through the systems to make it available. The third component is the agentic AI solutions environment, where we are actually able to bring all these kits together with skills and context to solve a specific business problem. And there is a governance layer through Prism, which brings in observability, guardrails, and security engineered right along every step, because that also is becoming a very critical element in agentic AI adoption. So that's the Leap suite for you. We're really excited with the launch. We've been working with a number of our existing customers to market test it and see the relevance of that. Excited with the initial results that we have seen. So really looking forward to taking that to the larger enterprises around the world.
Yeah, we talked last time. This is again an industry theme on almost every keynote I've heard from CEOs on stage is closing the gap. Everyone wants to close the gap. You talk about the context gap. Talk about why this Leap AI, I love the name, by the way, Leap, leaping forward. It's very, very visual. Talk about that gap that you're closing. What specifically are you addressing in the Leap here? Because what gap are you closing? What specific problem are you targeting? Obviously, context, we talked last time. This makes total sense as the top conversation. What is the core sweet spot of the target here?
So maybe it will be useful if I give you an example. So one of the top airlines in the world, it's been our customer for the last more than 15 years, and we've been working with them on their enterprise data journey along the way. So the chief data officer of that airline, he sort of threw a problem at me when we were talking about all of these agentic AI use cases and potential. And his problem was very simple, saying that as an airline, today, we have a lost baggage ratio of, I'm just taking the numbers as example, 10 in 10,000. And that 10 in 10,000 might look great on percentage terms. For the airline of their size, it's several millions of dollars that it costs in order to route that bag back to the passenger or compensation that they have to pay for the delays or losing that bag. So their challenge from their business was use agentic AI to help me get it from 10 bags per 10,000 to 7 bags per 10,000. And now that problem, they were trying to solve it with models for a while. And they were not getting anywhere with that. It was going only up to 80% accuracy. And hence it was not good enough for the business to adopt into production. So when that problem was shared with me, we actually came up with this context solution where we said, what are the data elements that influence a bag making it on the right flight? And how do we model that around that? And then when we layered the data that was sort of buried in the enterprise systems for that airline. Also figured out how do they, what are the priorities that they assign when they look at baggage transfers. What is important for them? Sometimes transitioning of aircraft from the bridge, that SLA is more important. Yeah. Certain airports, they have their own staff. Certain airports, they don't. They partner with someone. All of these are very specific airline nuances. So we brought that context in. And then we are able to now build an agentic solutions that is bringing it down from 10 to 9 to 8.5, and we'll continue to fine tune it to get to that goal. That's the example of what the Leap Suite can do for you.
I love that example because what you just said is consistent with some of the things we've been talking about on theCUBE and we've been seeing in the industry, where it used to be the users and the use cases bend to the technology. Now the technology bends to the use cases. You mentioned that example. Many use cases per the airlines. I mean, there's different situations, context.
Correct.
That's and the execution workflow.
Yeah.
So that's an example. So I love that. On the launch, you guys got the modernization layer with Leap Logic. You got the semantic layer with Context Fabric. You got the observability with Prism, and you got the agent solutions piece, which builds on the services. So I have to ask you, how did you get here? Because the difference between genius is timing. You know, you've had the piece parts, and the timing of this is consistent with good architecture, the governance focus built in from day one, to having that systems play. How'd you get here? What was the timing internally? Can you share your thoughts? Because this launch and rebrand is consistent with what people are talking about as what they're thinking about for agents.
Yeah. So there were components that we were sort of already at it, right? So Leap Logic has been around for some time, which we've been, it was our key platform for modernization. And we were doing these journeys right from sort of big data to data on cloud to lake houses to data for AI, right? So we've been through this journey with enterprises. That was always our strength. We built upon that strength. The piece then and observability part also was always there because we built it originally for FinOps in the cloud world. And so we had the capability which was for a different purpose. But as we started to talk to the customer and understand this context gap and the solution for that, the agent solutions and the context fabric were the components that got visualized as the critical missing pieces to make this platform a holistic platform for agentic transformation. So it's the same thing that we talked about earlier, is it wasn't a pivot, but it was an inflection point for us. We took the strengths that we always had in Leap Logic and in Prism, we accelerated and molded them for the agentic world, and then invested in the context fabric and agentic solution to make it complete platform so that we are able to get the ROI problem fixed for enterprises as they look at their agentic journey.
How should people understand your approach? It's a new approach, it's a family, it's a platform. What's the new approach? How would you describe it?
I think it's a new approach. Traditionally, you would have seen system integrators which will build a lot of knowledge and capability to the table and say, I can solve all of these. But it was bespoke and it would have taken a long time to get the resolution done. And the outcome was not always guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And on the other spectrum, you would have software companies who will say, I have a solution, here is the outcome. But that solution is not tuned or not customized to your needs. And hence, you will get that piecemeal outcome, but it won't solve the end-to-end problem because other pieces around that are missing. And then the system integrators played a role to sort of stitch these two things together. Our new approach is that we are bringing the software and services together on it. So it gives you the benefit of outcome orientation that the software is used to do. And it brings in the flexibility of the services approach that used to do. So essentially, think about it as one-to-one customized product. That's really how we think about it, where the product is absolutely adopted to your needs, your environment, your enterprise, but we are taking the accountability for the outcome with you like a software would. And that combination is what makes the Impetus approach unique.
So your platform's redefining the category of on-premise services with partner integration firms coming together. I want to get your thoughts on this. I think this is really kind of clever because the success use case that we've been pointing out on theCUBE has been companies' readiness with the velocity of AI capabilities. I mean, everyone's talking about, hey, in the next 30 days, something else happens. So there's a lot of velocity on the AI capabilities. So the readiness is really where the companies are more successful. When they're ready, timing, execution. How do you address that? Because we're seeing a lot more co-design going on between integrators, whether they're medium, small, medium, large, or the large GSIs that have traditionally been like bigger projects, slower, but there's a speed mandate.
Yeah.
Talk about that dynamic and how this fits into that.
So the Leap AI suite is kind of doing sort of two things for that. Number one, it is encapsulating complexity of underlying technology changes from the solution builders so that they are able to keep up in a consistent way of building solutions and not worry about a new model being launched or a new offering being launched or a new API being launched. The platform encapsulates that and allows you to adopt it progressively. And the second thing is that we are building this in collaboration with our key partners. So we are also in step with them how the technology is evolving, whether these are data ecosystem partners like the Databricks or the Snowflakes or hyperscalers or model partners. We're working with all of them in ensuring that we are able to bringing newer capabilities seamlessly through this platform to our customers. So we are encapsulating the complexity, but ensuring that they continue to get the leverage on the new technologies that are coming in. And the third piece is when we do software plus services together, it really shrinks the cycle. So we are doing most of these as 6 to 8 week cycles. So in a way, even within that cycle, if new technology comes in, you have an opportunity to catch it in your next sprint. You're not really missing out on that. You're not freezing your architecture for a long time and then hence worried that whether by the time you're done, will it make it relevant or not? Because it's the speed and the encapsulation of that complexity actually solves for this problem through Leap AI Suite.
Well, it's a great rebranding. I love the Leap name. Based on your experience, you've seen a lot of projects. What's your vision on how you see this unfolding? Take us through your mind's eye around, okay, fast forward, it gets in being deployed, there's adoption. What are some of the things that are going to come out of this? Because all the successful AI projects are producing a lot of value fast. The extraction of that value, we're seeing not just cost reduction, but revenue generating. There's a lot more ROI opportunities to score points to build that equation. What do you see unfolding if you had to kind of peek into the crystal ball? I mean, ideally in a steady state, how would you see it unfolding? What would be a day in the life of this rolling out into a company?
So we typically see a sort of 3 entry points of this Leap Suite into our customers. There are some customers which are ahead in this adoption journey, have fairly good discipline, data discipline within their organization. In those customers, I see it enter through the data lens and progress through the context journey as they start to make their AI adoption mainstream. There are customers like the example I gave you about the airline, where we will enter with a particular use case that we want to solve, and we will sort of move backwards and integrate through context and into the data relevant for solving that problem. And in some customers, we are entering it through the observability lens, where they've built a lot of solution, but they don't know how to manage those because they've sprawled in different teams and they have now suddenly have X number of agents in production. They don't have a view of how do I manage that? How do I observe? How do I really make sense out of that? There, the entry point is through observability. So if I look at fast forward, we would see sort of different angles of adoptions of that platform. And eventually sort of start from data, go into the agents, start from agents, go into the data, or we see the observability, which is, the point that we mentioned that they have a lot of agents, but they don't know how to manage it. So we become that control plane for them to be able to manage the environment that is kind of getting out of control a little bit through this pieces.
Well, I like how you guys had the piece parts. The market timing was good. I mentioned that timing piece is critical. Obviously, there's demand, a lot more work to be done, so a lot of headroom. Can you share the company's beachhead that you've established? Because how you got here was through a lot of work, building the technology. Now you got the family of Leap AI services and solutions. You had business going on. This is an extension to that.
Yes.
You've done a lot of services business, a lot of migrations. You've been in the weeds a lot with a lot of customers. Now you have this business. So it seems to me that you're in the context business,
Yeah.
not the services migration business. Share your vision on this change, inflection of the company and the importance of that.
Yeah. So I think one of the main sort of inflection point now is earlier we would get engaged with the customers when they would have decided to modernize their data estates, and we would be a key partner to help them do that. And I would say that we did it better than anybody else. But we got engaged when they had made that decision. Today we are actually talking to them on why are you modernizing the data, and what's your objective with the modernization? What's the ROI? How would you actually see that helping your customers, your business? How would a CFO see value in it? How would a business head see value in it? And we are becoming the partner to actually make that ROI happen for them. So we are, starting point in our discussion with our customers is materially different. And we are enabling them to achieve that ROI a lot better than we were when they had decided what they wanted to do. So that's really the fundamental sort of things changing. And hence we are leading with context. We're leading with context in every single conversation, where the teams is sort of also being trained to ask, okay, but why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why do you want that? Why do you want that? Till we get to a point where we understand how the ROI for that customer will work. And we want to be the partner to get to that outcome.
So you guys built the muscle.
Absolutely.
And you have a trajectory with economies of scale in that service piece.
Correct.
That gave you a front row seat to build the requirements. Again, timing comes back to this.
Yeah.
So would it be safe to say that you're in the context creation business? Because you have the governance. I mean, everyone's talking about governance. I think I've said the word governance more in the past year than 17 years in theCUBE outside of certain, certain verticals. But everyone's talking about governance is the key to getting those rules for the agents.
Yep.
I mean, context creation, that's the business.
So I would probably tweak it a little.
Okay.
You're
the CEO, I'm the host.
So we are in the context engineering business.
Okay.
And I would differentiate between creation, because creation would imply it's a one-time activity.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not. By the time you build the context, underlying systems and data change every day, every minute in some cases. So you have to, it's a living organism within an organization. So you have to have systems thinking for context, so that it is engineered, which means that it will not only it's created, but it's able to keep itself relevant all the time.
Okay, that's a good distinction. That's why you're the CEO. I would say that the data changes in context. Mm-hmm. So the context engineering is this platform piece to the business challenge because more data is coming in.
Correct.
Okay, so when you look at the future, where do you hope this will be in a year? What do you hope the outcome will be from this, the type of engagements, what use cases? Because agentic's coming on super fast. We're about a year, in my opinion, away from full explosion of agentic action. We're seeing use cases being, using agents now. People are being practical and intentional on the agents. Where do you see this evolving on the agent world?
So I think if we get this right, I believe that a year from now, we would have a lot more customers with production grade intelligent systems than we see today. And I'll sort of relate to that in the past as well, is that when we were in the modernization journey, we always took pride in us being able to help customer decommission their technology more than anybody else, right? That's the outcome orientation that always differentiated Impetus.
Yeah.
If I take that outcome orientation into this new world, for us, it's less about adoption of my platform, but more about, can I have a large portion of my customers have significant agentic use cases in production that are scaling and delivering ROI for them. That's the success for me. Today, that percentage is 2, 3, 4, 5. We would want to get 50, 60, 70% of the use cases that our customers are interested in into production, generating ROI that would be the success for us.
Question on the enterprise adoption and usage, the value, I get that, that's clear. A lot of enterprise architects are thinking generational decision when they think about, horizontal, scalable control planes, semantic layers, harmonization layers, all the things we do in the deep tech. How should they think about you guys on the engagement side? Is it, I need this everywhere? What levels of, can they put their toe in the water? How do they adopt? What's the engagement program, and because it's a heterogeneous market.
Yes. So the way we've built our platform is actually, that's kind of why we call it platform, because it's plug and play, it is scalable, and it is customizable to a specific environment. So number one, we would adopt to some of the technology choices that our customers might have already invested in. And we're not saying that you throw away everything you have and get something new, because that is always a longer.
Not a rip and replace.
It's not a rip and replace. It sits very well within their ecosystem. Also, the platform abstraction layer in the platform is actually meant for reducing the stakes in those decisions. Because people think that I have to decide what model to use. Yeah. And my approach to that is, any decision that you take like that, you're going to have a buyer's remorse, because tomorrow morning some other model is going to come in which is going to be powerful with the one that you invested in, and you're going to say, did I take my decision too early, and was I wrong in my decision? Yeah. So you have to encapsulate or abstract it in such a way that you should be able to continuously take advantage of technologies as it evolves. So hence, your decision of some of those technologies is not a generational decision, but it's a very purpose-built tactical decisions you're taking in point in time for a specific purpose. So those are the two things that I believe will help customers adopt it progressively and reduce the stake in the decisions that they're making, so that they can continue to remain current on those.
Thanks for coming on theCUBE. I guess final point is, how would you describe the news and launch simply to someone watching? What does it mean? What does it do for them? What is it? How does it work?
So every single enterprise which is struggling to justify ROI on their agentic AI journey, Leap AI solutions and our context engineering methodology will help them solve that problem.
Closing the gap, accelerating the value, of course. We're here in theCUBE bringing that. Leaping ahead, Leap AI platform. This is John Furrier on theCUBE. Thanks for watching.